seems like, you know, a lot of thought has gone into not just the individual lines, but, you know, creating all these contrasting, the arrangement of these sections.
It's funny, you know, talking to somebody like yourself that actually analyzes what we did.
Bob, I've had 25 years to work on it.
But see, I've never actually sat down and analyzed it myself like that. And thinking about it, I thought, you know, I've just thought to myself, well, I've never really thought about it like that, you know, where we consciously made a different section for it to solo over. It just sort of happened, you know. But, you know, looking at it how you look at it, which is to analyze it, it becomes interesting to me then.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, the thing of it is, you know, when I look at, and let me just kind of give you a general overview of how I look at the pieces, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at them from an A section, you know, I look at the mode that it's in.
Yeah.
You know, whether, you know, a lot of this stuff is obviously Aeolian, you know, minor, natural minor bass. But then I look at the contrast to the tonal color when we move into, you know, the pre-chorus or an interlude, like where does it move in terms of the tone center. And then, if you look at, like, okay, the A section's based around straight 16s, let's say, and then the B section, they're going to go into dotted quarter to an eighth feel.
Right.
So there's so, you know, I guess that's the thing, there is so much contrast and so much diversity built into these particular songs that the question becomes, you know, did these guys sit around and say, okay, now we're moving to the B section, we got to create the B section, we need to change the color, we need to change the feel, we need to do this, and make it loop back around, you know.
Well, to an extent, it was done like that, and sometimes it just happened, you know, where it just, we'd try this, we'd try that, we'd try something else, until it just felt right. You know?
I see.
We didn't analyze it too much musically. I suppose we analyzed it with what felt right, what sounded right, and really from the heart. You know, how's this song overall? You know, and do it that way. And sometimes we'd have songs where we think, wait a minute, this bit in here doesn't really fit, but it's a good bit, so we build a new song around that. You know.
Beautiful. Well, you know, it's an interesting thing. You know, another thing on these songs is, and back to the lyric end of this work. You know, the hooks, you know, the vocal hook in these songs tends to be housed in the refrain. You know, it's a very unobtrusive thing, as opposed to all right, all right, all right, you know, where it's right up the nose, you know.
Right.
And I look at it because, you know, Ozzy coming out of the Black Sabbath situation, you know, that's always a thing that we kind of refer to as a chorusless song form that they did, you know. Unless you look at something like Rock and Roll Doctor, I think, which came later on, where he actually does a chanting chorus type thing. So that pretty much, I guess, No Bone Movies has the chanty chorus bit.
Yeah, see, No Bone Movies originally was going to be a B-side for a single. Until when we finished it, and everybody thought, well, it turned out pretty good, let's put it on the album. And, you know, so that was really a last-minute thing of No Bone Movies was supposed to be a bit of a throwaway B-side for a single that ended up going on the album.
Well, it's you're having a classic row at the end of that thing, you know, that outro solo on that thing. I mean, everybody's going bonkers, you know. Well, you know, the thing is, Bob, this thing with the chorus style on the songs, you know, two songs which I adore are the, you know, You Looking at Me and the You Said It All song, which, of course, you know, were left off those albums. But they have the hooky, chanty chorus, and I often wondered, were they left off because, you know, their hook style is not, you know, in perfect concert with the other material?
Well, I suppose You Looking at Me was written fairly early. That was one of the first that we got together. I think Goodbye to Romance. You Looking at Me was around about that time. There was the first few songs that we did, and it was one of them.
Right.
And I think probably by the end of recording everything that we had for that first album, You Looking at Me started to sound more like a B-side than No Bone Movies did.
Right.
Although, like I say, No Bone Movies was written for a B-side, but you know, there wasn't a lot of time, and you know, we're in the studio. Let's get out. Right, you're on the road, and the record company was saying, okay, we want to release a single. We need a B-side, and we need bonus material. And they brought a mobile studio to one of our gigs and recorded You Said It All, which was You Said It All was written with Lee Kerslake, Randy, and myself in an afternoon at a sound check. I think the gig was Oxford in England. It was written in the afternoon while Ozzy was asleep under the drum riser, drunk.
The classic boss, yeah?
Oh, yeah. And Randy had a riff, and then Lee came up with the vocal melody, and we worked out the music together, and we recorded a rough tape of it. And then I took that tape back to the hotel, and I wrote the lyrics for it in between the sound check and the gig.
Wow.
And then I think Ozzy, you know, I went through it with Ozzy, with, you know, how Lee's vocal melody had worked out with the lyrics, showed it to Ozzy, and I think he just read it off the sheet that night with the mobile studio to record it as a B-side.
Awesome song, Bob. Now, when you're writing the lyrics, you know, and you have time alone to sit and work on them, do you gather, you know, source material around you? You know, if you're going to, let's say, make a song about whatever the topic or the concept of the song is, I mean, do you gather source material, or do you just kind of let it flow out of your stream of consciousness?
Well, a bit of both, I suppose. A lot of inspiration for me has been things that have really happened, or things that people say, or whatever, you know, like, and plus I have sometimes notes, you know, I'll think of a line, or I'll think of a way of saying something. I think, oh, that's good, that might come in handy for a song, and I'll just jot it down. So I've got a book of these little, you know, lines and sayings and words and things like that.
Just like a file, then, yeah?
Kind of, yeah. And I also have a rhyming dictionary.
Okay, so you do
If
that
you have
one.
a word, yeah, if you have a word that ends a line, you think, oh, what would be a good word to rhyme with that? And you can look up various words. And then sometimes that one word that will rhyme with the previous one might be inspiration to make that line, you know? It can be like that.
Now, when you're writing the lyrics, Bob, I mean, if you don't have a particular melody line that you're tailoring the lyric to,
Yeah.
I mean, do you, how much do you go by, you know, the meter, like, as like a poet, you know, would put together poetry, or do you just kind of, you know, go over the basic feel of the words and their singability?
Well, sometimes, yeah, you know, like I've had lyrics that I've jotted down just because I thought, oh, that's maybe a good idea that might come in handy for something, and then when somebody, whoever it is that I've been working with or whatever, goes to sing it, it doesn't sing so well, and I might have to change some words or change some lines, or, you know, that sort of thing. But quite often, a lot of the lyrics I've written have been for melodies that have already been